everyone, it's really nice to be with you again, and now is Easter time, and I thought I would share with you a little book that I found. And do you know, it's a very special book because it tells not just a wonderful story, a really fun story with lots of really fun pictures, but it's actually a story that we Christians believe to be a true story. And do you know how we know that? Because it's in the Bible. So the book is called The Garden, the Curtain and the Cross. And you know, I thought I would just give you a little introduction so you know what's happening. Usually at Easter time, we start, I don't know if you remember, we start at Palm Sunday, because it makes sense. It's just before Jesus is arrested. It's just before he entered Jerusalem. And it's just a normal place to start. But this book actually starts right at the beginning, at the garden, when God made the garden and everything was beautiful. Everything was perfect. And no one was sad, ever. And nothing was bad, ever. And you know, it's right at the beginning. But there's a word that we say, this book says a lot, and actually that we Christians use, and it's the word sin. That means when we do wrong things. And that is the thing that separates us from God. So you're going to be listening, you're going to be hearing that word a few times in the book. It talks about a curtain. So you know, I'm not going to tell you a lot about the curtain, we'll come back to it in the end. But there is a curtain in a temple, and it means something quite special. And there is the cross, which we all know about the cross and which we all know what means. So we're gonna read this book together, and you're gonna understand why Easter is so special for us Christians, and you're gonna learn a little bit more about the Bible. Shall we read it? The Garden, the Curtain and the Cross. A very long time ago, right here in this world, there was a garden. In the garden, everything was wonderful. The world was full of laughing and playing and smiling and fun. There was nothing bad, ever. There was no one sad, ever. And best of all, God was there. He had made it all. He was in charge of it all, and he loved it all. People could see God and speak to God and just enjoy being with God. It was a wonderful place to live with God. But then, one day, the people did a terrible thing. They decided they didn't want to do what God said. They decided they wanted a world without God in charge. God called this sin. Sin spoils things. So sin has no place in God's wonderful garden. God said to the people, "You can't live with me in my garden anymore." And he sent them outside. To show the people that they had to stay outside, God put some warrior angels in front of the garden, and the angels were like a big "keep out" sign. Now, things were sometimes bad, and people were sometimes sad. But people still kept sinning because they didn't want God to be in charge. So no one could come into God's wonderful place. God said, "Because of your sin, you can't come in." God wanted people to remember, it is wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in. So he told people to build a very special building called his temple, where he would live. In the middle of the temple was the most wonderful place in the world, the place where God was, with nothing bad and nothing sad. It was very exciting. But then God told the people to put a big curtain around this wonderful place. The curtain had pictures of warrior angels on it. It was a big "keep out" sign. For hundreds of years, the temple curtain reminded people what God had said. It is wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in. Babies became grown-ups, and they had babies. And those babies became grown-ups, and they had babies. And those babies became grown-ups, and they had babies. Hundreds of summers and winters passed by, and the Kippur curtain stayed in the temple. Then, one day, God the Son came to live in this world as a person, and he was called Jesus. Jesus always did what God said, and Jesus never sinned. And Jesus visited the temple where the Kippur curtain hung. Jesus knew that things were sometimes bad and sometimes sad. Jesus said that God had sent him to open the way back to God's wonderful place where there would be nothing bad and no one sad. But people still didn't want to let God be in charge. So they decided to put Jesus on a cross to die. It was the most terrible thing that have ever happened. It was the most sad day of all time. But Jesus had a plan. He had always planned to die on the cross. What a strange plan. Why would God's Son plan to die? On the cross, Jesus took our sin, all the bad things we do, and all the sad things we cause. Jesus took them all from us. And when he did, something amazing, astonishing, astounding happened. The curtain was torn. God had ripped up the Keep Out sign. God's wonderful place is open again. Because Jesus died, we can go in. After Jesus died, his friends put him in a tomb. They were very sad. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then, the next morning, Jesus' friends went to see his body on the tomb and it wasn't there. A little later, Jesus' friends were all together and suddenly Jesus was there, alive. Suddenly his friends weren't sad. Now they were so happy. God had brought Jesus back to life so that he could live in God's wonderful place forever. And Jesus had sent everyone an invitation to come and live with him there too. He tells us God says it's wonderful to live with him. Because of your sin, you can't come in, but I died on the cross to take your sin. So all my friends can now come in. We can live with God forever. There will be nothing bad and no one sad. We will see God and speak to God and just enjoy being with God, just as he planned. It will be wonderful to live with him, and it's all because of Jesus. We will say every day, "Thank you, King Jesus, you're amazing." And you can start saying that today. Did you enjoy the story? Oh, I love the pictures. I love the picture of the garden because it just reminds me that when God made everything was perfect. And the most special thing is that God was there. But then men decided to make a really bad decision, didn't they? They decided that they didn't want God to decide what they did. And I would love to think that I would have made a different decision, that maybe I wouldn't have done the same thing they did. But based on the bad choices that I make sometimes, it makes me think that I probably would have made the same choices. And of all the Easter story, the thing that I love, one of the images that I love the most is about the curtain. because the curtain, it was huge. I don't know about you, in my house we use curtains on windows to keep the light away and to keep the house a bit warmer when it's winter. But actually that curtain, it was used, and in Brazil sometimes we use curtains to separate a room. And that curtain actually meant separation. It meant that because God wanted to be with us, He never wanted to be apart. So He created this temple. And if you read in the Bible, it tells how He told Solomon how to build this amazing house that God would be and people could come and meet with God. It was because He wanted to remind people that He never wanted to be separated from us. But there was this curtain that it was because of our sin we couldn't actually come to God's presence. And if you read on the history books, on Jewish history books, they reckon that that curtain was about 60 feet high, and some people think that it was even about 4 inches wide, thick. It was just really big, thick curtain. And I just find it so incredible that when Jesus died on the cross, as a sign that we didn't have to be separated from God anymore, that curtain was completely torn. And the thing that even gives me the goosebumps is that it was torn from top to bottom. So it was nothing that we did. We didn't torn that curtain. It was God that came and torn it and said, we don't need to be separated anymore. And that's why we Christians believe that now we can come and we can just pray. And we don't have to go to a special place. We can pray when we're walking, we can pray in our house, we can pray wherever you are. You can pray to God and He will listen. And I think that's really special. So I thought I would invite my little sidekick to come and pray with me and just say thank you for the garden, for the curtain and for the cross. Would you like to come, Ezra? Are you going to do the prayer drill?
1,
1,
2,
2,
3. Pick up this lovely day. And Lord, that we thank you that we're going to enjoy this story. And Lord, that we thank you that we'll enjoy it. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Shall I say bye-bye?
Bye.